right now is an overview of what's ahead of us. This is basically a table of content, and what we are seeing here are chapters. We'll be going through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different chapters, and each of those chapters will be doing something different. Now, for the first four chapters, we'll be focusing on preparing our main establishing shot. Starting with the first chapter, we'll be focusing on building the layout, and here you see the number 134, which means this chapter is over 2 hours long, because building the layout is, I think this is the most important part of this whole tutorial, because when we are building the layout, we will be solving around like guessing 80% of the problems that will be ahead of us. And in the layout, we're gonna want to build in a way where we'll be able to, in our future images, to come up with like a bunch of different and additional angles. And also the other things that we will want to establish in layouts are a feeling of scale and maybe a bit of a feeling of depth, to be able to notice how stuff recedes into the distance. Now, at the end of this chapter, I'll be having some personal opinions on what I think or what kind of processes are happening when we are doing stuff, or when we are following this workflow. And by the way, this is one of the workflows I'm using, and this is the most fun one to me, but I'm going to talk about it in a second, because stay on track, Piotr, come on, you just started recording this video. So throughout this whole tutorial, I'll be referencing to myself as a painter, as an architect, as a game designer, as a cinematographer and whatnot. And I'll be doing it because whenever I'm bringing up those words, it means the painter inside of you, then architect inside of you, designer inside of you, meaning the way I like to work is I like to solve one problem at a time, and some problems can be only solved by the painter inside of us, but for example, some other problems can be solved by a 3D artist inside of us. What I never want to do is to have to play like 5 roles at a time, because when I try to solve too many problems, meaning technical problems, compositional problems, I don't know, some design problems, then I will always get overwhelmed. So I'm just trying to pick one lane and first work on an image as a painter, and then I want to work on this image as an architect, and then as a designer, and then at some point I might want to switch to a 3D artist, but I never want to work. I never want to do all of those tasks at once, because I'm going to get lost. So what I'm saying is, whenever I'll be referencing to myself as a painter, as an architect, as an whatnot, it means I mean that also the architect, the painter, the game designer, inside of you. Now, I've mentioned this is one of my favorite workflow to work with, and it's because throughout the first throughout the whole tutorial, basically, we'll be only working with simple and basic modifiers. We'll be working with modifiers. We'll be working with 2 or 3 basic modifiers, and we'll be only doing maybe not low poly modding, but we'll be just focusing on super basic modeling, and then we're gonna be just applying some simple texturing without having to use any add-ons. I mean, also this workflow, the only add-ons we'll need will be basically hardops and maybe Gaffer and Simply Cloth, if you will want to have a better control of your HDRIs. Gaffer is an add-on that's an HDRI manager, but there's also a bunch of other HDR managers you can get, for example, on Blender Market, that might be you prefer, but you don't have to, because I think you don't have to, because also be providing you with a template scene with a HDR map and lighting and compositor nodes already set up. So this is a workflow that's basically, the motto of this workflow is basically keep moving. Keep pushing forward fast. I mean, we'll only be trying to find simple solutions to the problems, and then after like a certain pass, when our images will look more polished, is, for example, when we can start messing around with most complex add-ons or most complex shader setup. But what I wanted to say, throughout the majority of the tutorial, we want to keep moving fast, which means we'll be only using simple texturing, simple modeling. We won't be over-relying on add-ons, and especially won't be relying on add-ons that, for example, might impact the performance of our scene. Now, from the first chapter, building the layout, all right, I've talked about this. Now, with each pass, with each chapter, we'll be taking another pass of our image, and after we'll get to, I'll be explaining how I look at texture, how I use texture. I'm not talking about the technical aspects. I'm talking about, for example, texture hotspotting, or what do I want to see. And in the textures, I'll be like talking about some hard surface refs. Of course, we'll be modeling a lot of the stuff, but at some point, we'll be mixing the stuff that we modeled with a bunch of scans in order to push, or maybe, I don't know, get to our goal faster. Now, after some point, after we get to like after fourth chapter, in fourth chapter, what we're gonna be doing is I'm just gonna grab a camera, and because we'll be sticking to establishing a proper layout in terms of scale, in terms of depth, in terms of like placement of objects, what we're gonna be able to do is we're gonna be flying our camera around and looking for some interesting shots, some additional shots. Now, in my case, I've picked this shot and another shot, and I think there might be additional 2 shots in this tutorial. And about additional shots, or the tutorial length in general, so initially this tutorial was, I think I've recorded like close to like 30 hours of content, and then it turned out I really need to trim shit down because it was just way too much stuff. So a lot of the videos, like I might be in this throughout the videos, I might be referencing to something that I've said before, and I just had to edit this something that I've said out. And usually, I mean, I try to leave only something that's everything that's necessary, everything that's crucial to this workflow. So I don't think I've edited out something that will leave you confused. And when it comes to workflow wise, or when it comes to the Blender scenes, if you feel like you will be stuck at some point, like, you can feel free to check the Blender scenes, because I'll be providing the scene for this, and for sure I'll be providing the scene for this file. And for this one, I mean, this is the same scene and the volumetrics are just different, so maybe I'll be able to do it in the same file. But also, what I wanted to say is, this isn't like a follow step-by-step tutorial, meaning I don't want you to stick with the dimensions, or I don't want to, although I will provide you with a template scene with some bounding boxes, bounding walls. It will be extremely difficult for you to try to follow the exact same thing that I wanted, that I will be doing, because with time there will be like dozens and dozens elements will turn into hundreds, and hundreds elements might turn into like thousands of elements. So also, I mean, that's why I kind of wanted to prepare this tutorial in a form where we are building a layout, and then there's something big in the middle. And whatever this something big, or this big object will be, or can be, I'm leaving it up to you. I mean, you can follow me, and I will be working just with like a simple cylindrical shapes, but also at the end of in the first chapter, I'll be proposing a bunch of ideas, dropping a bunch of ideas you can pick from. I mean, you can choose basically anything you want, but what I wanted to say, we want to respect the rules, never halves, or never make any 2 intervals the same. This is one of the most important rules to me, meaning if we are going to be, let's establish this, and I'll be talking about this some more in the coming videos. If this is our big shape, there's a horizontal line and there's a vertical line. What I want to establish in here is there are times, because we'll be working with architecture, there are times where we want to introduce the rule never halves, but there are times where we just won't be able to, because when it comes to architecture or to structure, we want to, when it comes to architecture or structures, we sometimes just have to compromise, meaning shit is just built sometimes certain ways. And for example, I went with like a bunch of metal platings, right? So either, although I wanted to avoid the rule never halves, like stuff can be just assembled this way, right? So I went with a lot of repetition when it comes to horizontal placement of lines. But then when it comes to vertical placement of lines, as in how I wanted to divide the shape, I wanted to really use this rule never halves, meaning there will be this huge thing, and then there will be this smaller thing, and then there will be in the end some smaller trims, even even dividing the shapes. And then at the end, what I'm gonna be doing is, instead of having straight lines, I'm gonna be pushing them with like a bunch of different bevels. But what I wanted to say is, let's keep in mind, whatever we might want to will be designing in here, let's not just do a design that's like grid, looks like grid, where whatever we're going to be placing will be just at even distances and will be just busy. The healthiest, I think the most reasonable way to do it is some of the lines, like the horizontal lines. Wait, those are horizontal, right? Horizontal lines. They can be even, while the vertical ones, they will be at different pacing. Or we can maybe do it the other way around, where those shapes will be cut like so, and then, for example, this segment can be something else than this segment, like so. And then something else can be happening in this segment, like a different type of repetition visible. But goddammit, I'm getting ahead of myself. I really wanted to establish the importance of rule never halves, and I'll be talking about this rule throughout the whole tutorial, throughout all of those videos. Now, one of the other rules that I'll be focusing a lot on, and it ties to this YouTube video that I've showed you before, is I'll be focusing on what the lines and shapes are doing. And at each step of the way, like every time we're gonna make a bit of a progress, we're gonna be taking a screen grab and scribbling over this screen grab. Now, we're gonna do 4 passes before we get to an image that I feel like will look presentable. By presentable, I mean an image where stuff is just starting to click together. And whenever I will get to an image where stuff will starts to get click together, I will want to start looking for additional angles. And it won't be easy. It won't be easy. It will be super easy to find additional angles, because we're gonna be paying like a lot of attention towards the sense of spacing, or what we want to show in the frame when we're gonna be building or establishing our layout. So for the first 4 chapters, I'll be taking my sweet time to try and convey or try to explain each decision that I am making. And the reason why the reason why those segments are so lengthy is because I've learned something from the last year's tutorial, and what I've learned is that I didn't spend enough time explaining things, meaning, maybe differently, this tutorial was 10 hours long, and what I've noticed after seeing so many results of your beautiful works is that in this tutorial I spent 2 hours explaining fundamentals, and then I spent 8 hours just showing a bunch of technical stuff or 3D stuff. And what happened in here is, although majority, all of the results of the tutorials that you've sending me were amazing, I found that there was something missing in them. And the something that was missing, it's not because someone, or if you watched my previous tutorial, it's because you sucked. No, it's because I failed to try and convey what was the most important part behind working image. And it's not those 8 hours of technical aspects of building an image, is those fundamentals that that now I know that I need to go into lengths, into, I don't know, I need to put a lot of effort into explaining fundamentals, right? So that's why those segments are like so lengthy, like 2 hours, 1 hour, 100 minutes, like an hour and a half, because not only I'm explaining how I'm texturing stuff, but what I want to see, for example, in the texture, and how I want to build my compositions, and how some certain parts, like even before we get to a polished state of an image, there will be a lot of ground fundamental rules that we'll want to include, and I will take my time to try and explain those rules carefully. Now, after we get to what I consider to be like a presentable image, meaning an image that will give me a bunch of feelings, what I'm gonna do in this tutorial, we're gonna do is we're gonna start looking for a bunch of different shots. And because we're gonna be following, we'll be very careful, and we're gonna be solving a lot of the problems in our layout. phase, it means we will be able to come up with additional shots quite quickly, and we're gonna be working with different lenses from a range of 24 millimeters to lenses even up to 200 millimeters. But those images you can see, like this one is 200 millimeters. This is something that I'm gonna do, or we're gonna do together in the end. What else did they wanted to talk about? Oh, so in here, throughout the first 4 stages, I'll be looking at those images as a painter. We're gonna be looking at them as a painter, meaning we're gonna be following a bunch of painterly rules. But then with additional shots, we're gonna start exploring different moods, and I think there is like an additional image in the video, and while we exploring a bunch of different moods, we're gonna be switching from painter to cinematographer, because painter and a cinematographer, or maybe in general, like when it comes to the movies or making frames for the movies, although we want to respect the rules that the painter wants to show in an image, sometimes we just have to compromise and we have to start following a different set of the rules. But again, whatever I'm like talking in here, I will be talking a lot in the videos you will see along the way. But what I wanted to say is, first we're gonna be building the scene following a layout, and then we're gonna be looking a bunch of the additional frames, and then we're gonna be refining a bunch of those additional frames following a bunch of different lighting and mood rules. There will be a lengthy section about like color grading and post-processing. I shouldn't call it post-processing, because post indicates that we're gonna be doing color grading or post-processing after working the image. And the thing that's really helpful is nowadays with Blender we can just start color grading at the beginning on the scene. I'm gonna talk about it in the next videos. And of course, like this whole tutorial will be filled with a bunch of like tips and tricks. But in general, every solution, or this is one of my favorite workflows that I work with, and this is one of my favorite workflows that I work with, because whatever I'll be doing in here will be fast solution oriented, will be based around, all right, we need to keep moving forward. We don't want to get stuck in one place. Now, after the section about color grading and us trying to find additional shots and refining some of the shots, meaning refining some of the assets within those shots, we're going to circle back to the main shot, to the main establishing shot, and we're gonna polish this some more. Now, the reason why I didn't want to for example, cover or do the whole polishing shot to the final level, for example, at the fourth stage, is because something tells me that some of you might be interested in working on this establishing shot, but some of you might just want to do a shot like this one, a more cinematic shot that only shows a fraction of the environment, or maybe some of you will want to do a shot that's just like an interior shot, similar to this one, meaning if someone wants to do a shot like this, or someone wants to do a shot like this, there is really no reason to try and I don't know, polish the whole environment you see in here. And I hope this format won't confuse you. And as I've mentioned, you will have access to this Blender file, to this Blender file for sure, and I think to this Blender file as well. But what's different in this one, I mean, is just placement of assets and slightly different volumetrics. That the scene is basically the same. And what I wanted to say right now is, the other thing I wanted to say is, I try to keep those scenes as optimized as possible. I mean, I'm pretty sure that you will be able to run those scenes on RTX 3000 card series, but whenever you're opening a scene, or whenever you're working with a scene, always remember to keep your scene unpacked. Always go to File, External Data, and unpack your resources, because when your textures are packed within your Blender file, it kills the performance of your scene, meaning your scene will start running terribly slow. Oh, and the other thing is, always keep your files on don't keep your files on an external drive, because external drives, maybe you have like a super fast external drive, but usually like the ones I'm using, they have like slower transfer rates than the drive I have on my in my desktop PC. So whenever it's possible, keep your scenes unpacked and keep your files on your fastest drive, because if the transfer is slower, it means, of course, your Blender will be slower with loading the textures or loading the scenes in general. But anyway, you will be provided with like a bunch of scenes here. And the other thing that I wanted to bring up is because I consider those scenes to be, although the workflow will be, I consider it to be a fast workflow, and workflow that's very accessible even to new or maybe not super new, but fairly fresh Blender users or Mimic users that are familiar with Blender interface already. What I wanted to say is there's like hundreds of decisions that I've made in here, and I tried to do my best to explain every single decision, and I tried my best to explain like a bunch of different modifiers, but because there's so many things happening in here, I might have like rushed through hopefully not, but I might rush through like somehow some modifiers work, as in what I do with modifiers. I'll be working, for example, with curves. I'm just like hacking to make them work. And the same, I will work with simple deforms, and then with one shot, I'll be working with particle systems to have like a bunch of small bottles hanging from the ceilings. Now, I'll be just showing you the way I work with, or I'll be working with Simple Cloth to simulate the cloth. I know Simple Cloth has like 10,000 options, and all of them are like amazing and fucking great, but because I wanted to keep moving forward, I will be like hacking a lot of the hacking, like just doing something very sloppily, just trying to achieve something in the fastest way possible, even if something will look gloopy. There are proper way to do things, but the proper way to do things sometimes can take a bit more time, and then there's the fast way to do things, and I'm just a huge fan of the latter, because I always want to avoid getting stuck at one single element or one small problem. Now, the other thing I wanted to mention before we move forward, this is like the table of content for the whole tutorial, and as I mentioned, I had to edit like a lot of the stuff out, and I will put it somewhere. And the stuff that I was editing out, it was like basically talking about the importance of layout while showing a bunch of RGB shots, because I've done shitload of RGB shots, and those RGB shots taught me that that my images sucked for the longest, or maybe differently, my art got like, I felt like I leveled up after working on a lot of those RGB shots, because those RGB shots made me understand the importance of building a proper layout and importance of solving our problems in our first stage, meaning this is like 80% of our brain power will go over in here. But again, this will be those segments that I've edited out are mostly something that might be useful, but maybe not for the sake of just like following the workflow. I will find a place to upload them. Now, some other things that I've talked about in those videos are like how I come up with ideas for an image, or there was a segment about the fundamentals of color and light, and I will still talk about like color and light throughout a lot of those images. Now, the other thing, one last thing that I wanted to add is you see the table of content in here, but there's a chance that I might still add like 1 or 2 hours of additional videos. I mean, initially I wanted to end this tutorial on those segments, and then maybe like do this additional shot, but then decided, I mean, why the fuck not, right? Like, if I want to convey some stuff and I want to drop the knowledge, and I can like talk a bit more about other stuff as well. And I really love, like, when I'm working on one scene, I'm a huge fan of trying to squeeze as much as possible out of one scene, and hopefully I will be able I'm able to convey this understanding in the videos to follow. All right, so I want to show you the template scene I've prepared for you, and with this template scene I'll be already dropping a bunch of tips and tricks